from the Ticats Audio Network, this is Ticats Today with Louie Butko.
Against the defending champs, the two-time defending champs, it was close to a must-win, and the Tiger Cats are going to win. Another knee taken by Dane Evans. That's it. The game is over. The Tiger Cats win 48-31 in their most impressive victory of the season when they needed it most.
You know, just credit the players. It's about execution always. I've said that from the beginning, and that's not to say that a lot doesn't ride on the coaches, but, you know, I thought the coaches did an outstanding job in preparation, and the players did a great job of executing.
That is the head coach and president of football ops, Orlondo Steinauer. Before that, RJ Broadhead, as heard right here on the Ticats Audio Network, as the Ticats big winners over the two-time defending Grey Cup champion Winnipeg Blue Bombers to get back in the win column. That makes for a very happy Monday indeed. Thanks for checking us out on the Ticats Audio Network. Yes, the show is Ticats Today. I am Louie B. And again, appreciate you tuning in wherever you're listening on the Ticats Audio Network. And it's been raining on and off all day, but at certain points I've seen the sun. And that just makes your Monday that much better, especially after a Ticats win, especially as convincing as the Ticats won on Saturday. But that was just one win. Ticats are still sitting outside of the playoffs, looking up. They have a huge game against the Montreal Alouettes this week and a short turnaround going into Montreal on Friday night. So, yeah, big win. Great performance from Dane Evans. Great performance from the offense and the defense. But that was just one win, and I'm excited, and it's you should be if that's the team that's going to show up the rest of the season, and hopefully it is. So yeah, let's enjoy it. But also, I know that this team, they're off today, by the way, broadcasting from the Louie B studios here as they're off. But this team is going to say the same thing tomorrow when we get to talk to them. It's that. Last week was last week. They're already focused on Montreal. There's not going to be a lot of backslapping over that performance because that's already happened, and they have turned their attention. There's a new test, as Coach would say, on Friday, but doesn't mean we can't enjoy it today. We're going to hear from Coach O, a little bit more from him. We'll hear from Dane Evans. We'll hear from Tim White. Big 2-touchdown game from him. And what a huge performance from Dane Evans. Great to see. Such a bounce-back performance, 5 touchdowns, a new career high, and he just looked like he was having fun out there. And when you're winning is fun, winning is hard, but you get to reap the rewards. And I'm sure that Dane, who was named our top performer, will probably get a call from the CFL letting him know that he's probably the top performer of the week. I don't have any insights. I know it's voted on by some TSN panel, so if Tim White and Dane Evans aren't 2 of the 3, and heck, throw in Malik Carney as well, Ticats should probably sweep. They probably won't, but I probably sound like a homer too. Also coming up, we'll hear from Tim White, we'll hear from Dane, we'll hear from Orlondo, but as well, we'll have a little roundtable discussion with the 2 men who called the game, RJ Broadhead and Luke Tasker, right here on the Ticats Audio Network. All right, let's hear a little bit more from Coach O. And as always, full scrubs available at ticats.ca, but here's what he offered up after the game.
Well, you work too hard, and winning isn't easy, period. And I know that you lose sight of that, you know, when you put together a string of wins, but it just doesn't happen easy. And so I always want everybody in the organization to enjoy it for a 24-hour period because it's hard, and you can't just keep plowing with your head down. You need to enjoy it, and I want everybody to be happy with the performance and the win, but there's a difference between being happy and satisfied. So we have a short turnaround. I made mention to that. We got to take care of our bodies. We'll have our hands full next week, but to just move past that and not recognize what we've done here, I think is a little bit of a disservice to everybody.
That is the head coach and president of football operations of the Ticats, Orlondo Steinauer. And you can catch his full post-game comments available at ticats.ca. You can also hear from this next man. That is Dane Evans, who had a career day, 327 yards, 5 touchdown passes, 78% completion rating, and no interceptions, no turnovers, and a great performance from Dane. Here's what he had to say about turning the page and already turning the attention to Montreal.
We just got to stay locked in. We definitely can't start thinking how great we are, all this, that, the other, because Montreal will come out and punch us right in the face if we do that. But the great thing is I don't think anybody in this locker room is going to do that. I think we're just going to, just like Hamilton always does, just get right back to work and just be us again. You know what I mean? I'm really proud of the guys, offense, defense, special teams. But this was not our Super Bowl or Grey Cup, right? Like, we're in the playoff race now, and like we fully expected to win this. We knew everybody would be surprised except ourselves, and we're ready to go and get Montreal next week. It's going to be a fun game.
That is Dane Evans as he spoke after the game. And one more piece of post-game sound. Tim White had a pretty big game. 2 touchdown passes, leading the team now with 7 on the season. And here's what he had to say about the team's big win.
Just an overall team effort by us. Everybody contributed, and I think Tommy, he called a phenomenal game. Dane, he obviously showed up to play, and when he does that, our team is better. So it was fun out there. I think everybody showed up, and I think it obviously shows. So we just got to continue that moving forward.
Going into Montreal, how big a win is this going into a game that's for second place next week?
This is major. I think anybody looking in can see the seriousness of this game. And us getting a victory is obviously a big thing. We don't want to sit here and we want to celebrate it, but we want to look forward. We have 6 days before our next game, so we're just going to move forward and keep going.
That is Tim White as he spoke after the win. And as always, full post-game availabilities available at Ticats.ca. All right, for more on Saturday's big win, very pleased now to be joined by the 2 men who had one of the best seats in the house, RJ Broadhead and Luke Tasker of the Ticats Audio Network. And RJ, I'll start with you. You've called a lot of games for this team over the last 2 years. I have to think this one ranks pretty high in the fun category.
Yeah, absolutely. Probably playoffs were pretty fun last year too, but as far as this season's gone, it's probably the Tiger Cats team that most of us expected to see at the start of the year. They finally really put things together. I don't know about you, Luke, but I was exhausted after the game. There was a lot of emotion put into that call. I had a great sleep after.
Well, almost 50 points of touchdowns for you to, your classic touchdown Tiger Cats. I love it.
A fun game to call, a fun game to watch, and an offensive explosion from Dane Evans, a career-high game for him, 5 touchdown passes. But the play that really stood out to me was that one in the fourth quarter, Luke. Ticats only up 10, and he scrambles to find 9 yards, and you could see the emotion. This was a big game for Dane Evans. That was a big play for him.
Yeah, and to throw 5 touchdowns and then at the end of the game, like you said, that was a huge moment, and to make it happen on his feet, actually after having thrown 4 touchdowns, I guess his 5th was just about to come, and yeah, that was just a really, really awesome performance from him, and just at a time where a lot of folks had counted him out and had said that this isn't his year or his injuries were too bad. He's turning the ball over too much, and five TDs and 0 interceptions. Just unbelievable performance.
I just want to jump in there on that, Louie, because it's a great point you bring up. And I actually made a note of it because Montreal was down. Winnipeg was down by 24 points. And then they had crept to within 10 points. And I think most fans and maybe even the players and coaches felt that momentum shifting again. And Dane made that run, was not going to dive. We know his injury history, but the game was more important at that point. He kept that drive going, and it culminated in a David Ungerer touchdown. So points that the Tiger Cats really needed to stop the Winnipeg momentum. It was a huge play. I love what Dane did with Ungerer getting a touchdown, Keandre Smith getting his first touchdown, Felix Garan-Gauthier. I didn't expect that. I was surprised.
That opening drive.
Yeah,
that opening drive, really finding a way to use him.
Yeah, and of course Tim White and Stephen Dunbar both chipping in. But yeah, I had to double check the roster there just to make sure it was Felix. Yeah. Surprised me, surprised Winnipeg.
Yeah, absolutely. And they used him a lot early, and then they knew that they had to watch him. And Luke, to RJ's point about the receivers, 4 different guys catching touchdown passes. Keandre Smith, his first of his CFL career. The little backflip celebration was a lot of fun to watch. When you're a receiver and guys are having a day like that, what does that do to the in-game confidence for you guys?
Yeah, it is awesome, man. And it was a front flip actually that he landed in the end zone, which is harder to do. Like athletically, it's harder to do that, to front flip like that. And that was an impressive landing and celebration. It's huge. Like when everyone's starting to have a little bit of success, and you have one of those games where the ball's being spread around, and I mean there's touchdowns to be shared, and so. That was always very fun. And in the fourth quarter, by the end, you still have energy, you're playing well, and you kind of have a sense that you're going to, maybe get another opportunity in the game. That's, as a player, it's just a euphoric, like, this is why we do this kind of feeling. And yeah, for that group who is, had their share of struggles as well throughout the year, injuries and turnovers and all of that. And, that was a solid performance from that group as well.
Now, I don't want to undersell the defense because they had a great game as well, and we're going to get to that in a second, but let's finish up with the offense here because they are an underappreciated part of the football field, RJ. That's the offensive line. And you heard Zach talk about, or Zach, you heard Dane talk about it after the game. He was barely touched. He didn't feel like he got knocked down once. He had time. Wes Hills had some big carries. Sean Thomas Erlington had some big carries. That was the best we've seen the offensive line play this season, I would argue. And you've seen all of them play so far. So what do you think? Yeah,
basically for me, when I don't notice the offensive line, they're having an amazing game. And you're right, Dane really wasn't under a ton of pressure. When he was able to roll and see the field really well. The running game seemed to be better. Was it obviously helped by the offensive line, but Wes Hills seemed to be pretty motivated after spending a lot of time on the practice roster and being injured. And Luke and I talked about it in Ticats this week going into the game that really 3 starters on that offensive line are on the injured list. And that's a significant amount, 60% of the offensive line injured. So there were some new faces in there, and they were outstanding. And, David Beard at center, a couple of high snaps, but nothing Dane couldn't handle. But he seemed to be a nice addition as well. And when you don't notice the offensive line and quarterback's not touched, they had a great game.
And it's like anything in football, I guess, but very, really, really noticeably and tangibly that it's hand in hand. Like Dane's success helps the offensive line. The running game success helps Dane's passing success. It's a little, triangle of unity in the offense there. And the part of that offensive line being able to protect Dane is I just think the ball was getting out of his hands very quickly. They didn't have to hold on for the whole, for a 5-second count. I thought a lot of the time Tommy and Dane together and their approach to that game plan had some quick answers, especially early on when you're trying to find rhythm. And then there was a few times where, they did have Dane did have a chance to stand back there and make a longer read. But like I said, it's all a circle. I mean, they help each other with the success in each of those categories.
Yeah, you mentioned the 3 starters obviously missing from the offensive line. Revenberg and Coulter would be the guys you expected to see there. But yeah, Tyrone Riley, not a name you would have expected to see on the offensive line. David Beard and Colin Kelly, a lot of those guys last year in Edmonton. And Coach talked about it last week, being surprised that a guy like David Beard was available for trade and showcasing why this week. All right, let's talk about defense, because I think when some people saw Julian Hauser on the injured list, they were a little bit concerned that the Ticats D-line would be missing something. Not the case, RJ. Mason Bennett, huge game. Malik Carney, huge game.
Yeah. Well, Hauser, of course, Simone's been out for a while. Deontay Evans has had a good season. He's out. 3 really important pieces, but Malik Carney, probably the play of the game with the sack, and then so athletic, a big guy able to get the sack and then pick up that fumble and take it into the end zone for another defensive touchdown. Mason Bennett continues to impress, another sack for him in that game. So the defensive line is starting to get some depth, which is a very good thing. And teams have trouble getting to Zach Collaros. It's a good offensive line in Winnipeg, and he's an agile quarterback who can scramble really well and tends to make a lot of plays off that scrambling. So for that defensive line to contain that and chip in with a couple of sacks and a touchdown, that is an impressive game.
Micah talked about it. Dylan talked about it, Luke. It was Zach's ability to be able to extend plays that they really focused on this week. And Stanley Bryant's a world-class offensive lineman, but like RJ said, that D-line made them look human for the first time, or one of the few times this season.
I think you noticed a little bit of a lull there when Dylan Wynn had to sit on the sidelines too, and it just goes to show that, what an important role Dylan is to that unit as well. But man, you net all fourth quarters together, they were outstanding. And I agree. I think Zach is the best at making downfield throws after the protection has broken down when he's outside of the pocket. He does not, his only answers are not just run and check down. He still has his deep receivers, and he's tuned in with that. You can't help but be a little bit surprised by how impressive that was with that unit against the most efficient operating, quarterback and offensive unit.
Yeah, and to the linebackers now, I mean, Kyle Wilson, again, he has really stepped up in place of Simone Lawrence, like Mason Bennett trying to not replace Jagarrett Davis, but taking over that spot. Kyle Wilson having to fill the shoes, RJ, of Simone Lawrence. The Ticats linebackers haven't missed a beat.
Yeah, and really Jovan Santos-Knox, who's been one of the leaders in the CFL all season long, didn't have one of his massive games. I think he only had a couple of tackles, but Kyle Wilson threw some big hits. Cam Kelly has been probably doesn't get the credit he deserves. His fifth interception, but he's great in coverage. He puts pressure on the quarterback when needed. He's involved in stopping the run, so he's having an amazing sophomore season. And I think Voshan Joseph, whom was going to potentially start if Kyle Wilson couldn't, is going to get some starts at some point. He just seems to, when he's on the field on special teams or any opportunity he gets, he seems to be really emerging. So talk about depth on the defensive line. The Tiger Cats are starting to develop some in the linebacker core. And I guess that's the positive with injuries is you get some other guys that are able to step in and prove that they can start in the CFL.
Such a great point on the depth there, Luke, because something that felt like such a concern just a few weeks ago is now you look at that secondary, and again, Alden Darby goes out there and just does what he's asked. And to special teams now, coverage for the Ticats against Winnipeg, a really, really a nice positive. Coach always says, you want to win 2 or 3? The Ticats might have won 3 and 3 in the special teams offense and defense in this one.
I do. It was a bit of two different halves, I would say, with the coverage game. I think Winnipeg maybe would have had the upper hand in the second half of the coverage units, but I thought overall really solid performance. Kicking, Don Miguel not asked to do his job very many times, but you could see the effort and the energy, which was one time, right, which was really high, I felt like. And you have to match that because you could actually also see it from Winnipeg's coverage units. They were running down with the ferocity, down the field that was, it showed. And Hamilton had every bit the same energy as that. I mean, it's really telling to me. Like, it was really not a team falling into a win that was unexpected. It really seemed to me like a group of guys who believed that it could be done. And once the success happened early on, that those first quarter, only 2 drives by each team, right? It was just a back and forth of nice long drives. And after I think that they realized they could do it, man, everybody was no holds bar and went all out for it in a very impressive way.
RJ, you've talked about this with Coach. I've talked about this with Coach. We look at the seasons in thirds, and we are in that final third. We're in it now. You started with the win against Winnipeg. Looking at this final third, what are your thoughts on what the Ticats need to do?
Well, it's pretty clear they have to win football games, and that is a fantastic start to doing it, beating Winnipeg, and it's a statement game, too. They didn't just squeak out a win. It was a 48-31 victory, and I guarantee every other team in the East Division and the Saskatchewan Roughriders opened their eyes to the Tiger Cats and thought, So Montreal, it's funny how the schedule is now all coming together and everybody's got very similar schedules remaining as far as games played. For a while, Montreal had a ton of home games. Toronto had a ton of road games. Now down to 5 or 6 games remaining. It's a huge game for Hamilton in Montreal on Friday. Not only a win for the Tiger Cats would give them the tie break, they'd be tied for second place in the East Division. And I just want to say that we've been talking about the crossover now for the majority of the season because the West jumped out to that big lead. I'm not convinced there will be a crossover. Here's why. Saskatchewan is 4 points up on the Tiger Cats. They have played one more game than the Tiger Cats. So should Hamilton win next week, they'd be within 2 points of Saskatchewan. And Saskatchewan's schedule is tough. They play Winnipeg. They play in Hamilton, and that'll obviously be a big game. And then they play against BC and Calgary, and those two teams are battling for home field advantage in the West Division. So there's no easy games for the Riders, and they'll have to figure things out. But I'm not so sure that the crossover's going to happen anymore. Tiger Cats still have to shoot for second place, but it's starting to sort itself out a little bit. But win. That's the bottom line in this final third.
There will be no crossover. You heard it here first. RJ Broadhead, Ticats Audio Network.
That's right. I'm not a follower.
That's the broadcast perspective. That's the analyst perspective. Give us the player perspective. Take us into the room. How do you keep level-headed after a big win like that? Or do you not want to be level-headed? Do you want to ride this momentum?
Well, what just happened is what you've been waiting for to happen the entire season, where everything comes together. So, I don't think you have to overdo the, hey guys, we haven't made it yet. We don't have the playoffs yet. That's obvious. I mean, it's true. there's still a lot of work to be done, but boy, you can take a breath of fresh air, and you've kind of just proven to yourselves that you can play a very, very good football game. There is no better, way to go into Montreal than coming off of that win. Montreal, a team that they've beat already this year, and a place, that's if they play the same way they played at home against Winnipeg, there's a great chance for them to get another victory there. And so, as a player, you lean into that, man. Like you just put on film what you're able to do. You put all those touchdowns out there. Your defense played well against the best quarterback. You're firing on all cylinders. You lean into that, and you enjoy playing that way again if you can.
Should be a fun week of preparation. Luke, I know you got the Coach O show coming up later on this week, and I know you guys will both be back for an all-new Ticats this week on Thursday. So I appreciate you starting the week with me. Thanks so much for doing this.
Hey, Louie, I just want to jump in with one more thing. A quick shout-out to Seth Small. Hit a 52-yard field goal. He was 2 for 2 in field goals. He's now 3 for 3 in field goal attempts from 50 or more yards. So he deserves a shout-out as well.
RJ Broadhead showing some love for the kickers there. Thanks, RJ. Thanks, Luke, for doing this. And thank you, Ticats fans, for joining us today. Really do appreciate it. Hopefully this show put a smile on your face after that big win. Put a smile on my face on Saturday. Oh, speaking of smiles, the annual Tim Hortons Smile Cookie campaign is back. Ticats fans, 100% of the proceeds from sales of Smile Cookies will support charities and community groups across Canada. To participate in this year's Smile Cookie campaign, visit your local Tim Hortons restaurant or place an order through the Tim Hortons mobile app for delivery. Thanks so much for joining us. We're back tomorrow as the Ticats return to practice ahead of Friday's game. Check us out there, same time, same place here on the Ticats Audio Network. I'm Louie Butko, hoping you have a great day.
Ticats Today can be heard every weekday, and we would like to hear from you. Email us at gameday@ticats.ca. Have a question or an opinion? We want to hear it. That's gameday@ticats.ca. Subscribe to the Ticats Audio Network on Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts.